This is my conversation with Danny Segers, the CEO of Bioracer, one of Europe's largest custom cycling apparel manufacturers. Danny brings a unique financial background to the cycling industry, having grown Bioracer to 35 million over 18 years, with 85% of business focused on custom teamwear. In the conversation, we explore how Bioracer mastered the complex custom clothing business, processing 15,000 custom designs annually across factories in Czech Republic, Romania, Macedonia, and Colombia. Danny candidly discusses the fundamental differences between custom and collection businesses and how Bioracer is now strategically expanding into collection by leveraging their established team customer base. Danny also shares Bioracer's rebranding journey from superior cycling wear to We Make You Faster, triggered when world champion Tony Martin chose a competitor's skin suit. This pushed Bioracer to embrace wind tunnel testing and aerodynamic development, positioning themselves as the most tested brand in cycling. What stands out is Danny's distinctly Flemish approach to business, humble, steady, and focused on sustainable growth rather than aggressive expansion. It's a refreshing perspective in an industry often dominated by flashy marketing and ambitious claims, revealing how quiet competence and grassroots investment can build a lasting cycling brand. This is the Business of Cycling podcast. Danny Segers, thank you so much for coming on. You are the CEO of Bioracer.
Yes, that's true.
And right. Bioracer is a Belgian, one of the biggest custom clothing producers in Europe, and a Belgian company, correct?
Yes, born in Belgium as a company 40 years ago, founded by Raymond van Stralen, who was really into cycling performance, and actually the apparel part, the clothing part, was something that almost was done by accident.
Well, it started with bike fitting, right?
Yeah, it started with bike fitting and all types of. I think actually the polar to record your heart rate was the first reason to establish the company 40 years ago, because they started to import that from Finland, I guess. And then they needed like a VAT number, and that was actually the start of the company.
A cardio frequentometer.
Yeah. Which actually was first used in training horses, I guess, if I was informed well by Raymond. And then they started to see also the benefits of recording heart rates for cyclists.
So do you want to tell me a little bit about yourself, kind of where you grew up, your background a bit as well?
Well, I turned 50 last year, so I'm turning 51 already this year. I've been with Bioracer since 2007. I have a purely financial background, so I was a master in applied economics. Was working for EY, which is an audit company, auditing boring financial statements, reading balance sheets and P&Ls. That's where I came from. Moved to an investment company where Bioracer was one of the portfolio companies at that point. And of course, by being interested in cycling, I was riding myself. I was never like a pro rider or whatsoever. It pulled my attention, and that gives you more positive energy to follow up on a portfolio company like that. And when the investment company sold back the company to its shareholders in 2006, a couple of years later, Raymond just asked me, okay, we're looking for someone for me to follow up in a couple of years. Are you interested to step into the company? So then I started to do different functions, project manager, learning all the departments, moving into finance management for a couple of years, and then I was the CEO who was responsible in building up production capacity to fuel the business, and to of course from a financial and demography point of view, we needed to relocate to Eastern Europe. So we built factories in Czech Republic, Romania, Macedonia, and also Colombia, just to follow the growth of the business in total.
So you come from, you said, consulting. Bioracer was partially owned by an investment company. It's now privately owned again, or who owns it now?
It's privately owned by a family office, so two brothers that have an investment goal. They're already partners in the company for 20 years. I bought in several tranches a part of the company, and the founder with his son is still actively involved as a shareholder, but also from an operational point of view.
So you're also a shareholder, you said?
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Okay. And so having this a deep financial background, how do you see, I I also have a little bit of a financial background, and when you really step back and you think about it, the finances are the oxygen that make a company breathe and live, right? You have to have strong financials to be able to make any sort of projects, any sort of initiatives. And so from that standpoint, is that kind of how you see it? So everything that you see is through the lens of, is this sustainable? Is this feasible?
Yeah, for us running the business is of course being able to pay the bills, being able to repay the loans that we get from the banks to do the necessary investments in production capacity, in buildings and infrastructure, in startup losses for new regions. So that's actually like very P&L driven, and it's not that we have a shareholder that says, okay, here is X amount of money, and in 10 years time we come back and we look what happened with the money, and hopefully there is value or there's profitability that can justify the investment. That's not how we work. We have had always like a profitable business and reinvesting all the profit into the development of the company as a group, and that is, I think when I started we were doing like 6-7 million euro sales, and that has always been the driver for the business, is trying to take good steps that we could manage towards where we are now, close to 35 million, with a 85% stake in custom. So that and everybody who's in the industry knows how hard it is to do custom. So you need your facilities, you need your infrastructure, you need systems to fuel that. So that has always been the driver. Reinvest the profit in the next growth step for the company.
Yeah, and so you as a shareholder and as a leader, it sounds like you've all got, like, you and the family office and the other investors. It sounds like that your growth goals are not, I wouldn't say modest, but are realistic, but constant and sort of you don't have like really ambitious goals in terms of growth. It's like, it sounds like it's a very sober and realistic, because cycling clothing, it's an incredibly competitive market.
Yeah.
To grow quickly is not even, I wouldn't say it's not easy. I don't think it's possible to grow quickly. It's such a competitive market. It's a crowded market, and to scale up, it's not like you can just onboard, new customers overnight. It takes a long kind of tail of infrastructure, of selling network. And
Yeah.
so from that standpoint, I mean, is this something that you guys, from a strategy standpoint, have always kind of been aligned on this, or is this
Yeah.
something that's developed over the years?
Well, of course, the focus on custom comes from the fact that we saw that as a specialty, and we were born also in a region where every corner of the street has multiple teams that are sponsored by the local bakery, cafe, the guys that want to sponsor the local teams, and they need publicity on the shirt. So that came from itself. And so that's divided from the fact that we were born as a dealer company, so an IBD supplier of multiple products in the cycling range. Having to turn that back in 2002, when I was not yet involved with the company, to after 80-20 analysis, saying, okay, how much money goes to what amount of or what percentage of sales. And they at that point made the analysis that the spread over the different products that were supplied to the dealer were not worth the financial investment and the effort as a management team. So that made them, like, overnight decide to cut back on all the stuff that was not apparel related. By doing that, of course, you create damage within your customer portfolio as a dealer. So there were a lot of dealers like disappointed by the fact that they were not supplied anymore by the supplier that they have had known for quite a long time. And the second thing was that, of course, doing teamwear, so the fact that teams were organized around the dealer became very difficult for the dealer as such. So what they did, they just gave the lead to Bioracer sales rep, and they converted the order, giving like a cash back to the dealer. But at some point, that becomes less and less. How do you say it? The teams become less and less loyal to a certain dealer because they want to buy a Pinarello at another dealer. So there was a breaking point. And of course, then we already developed a direct to team business. I don't call it direct to consumer business yet, because that's something that in the next stage happened, and that is when we created team stores. Based on the team stores, we got in touch with the individual team members, and you can use those individual team members as your target audience for collection. And that's where we also see from a strategic point of view that we can step into the collection market easier than the other way around. And the other way around, meaning collection players stepping into custom, that is very difficult from a distribution model point of view, but also in terms of facility and infrastructure that you need to turn that around. So that's very complicated. But based on that, the business view changed completely to custom teamwear, and collection is added as an add-on, where we try to move that from 15 to 30% of the total business, with the benefit that we can use our own production capacity to keep fueling also the production of the collection stuff. And from a technical point of view, the fabric ranges and the trims and accessories that we need to apply to custom, they have evolved, and they are comparable with the stuff that has been used in the collection business. And of course, if we go back to your initial question in terms of the profitability and the growth ambition is one that we are ambitious, but we are also realistic that in custom, knowing that the business growth has to come from January to June, that is always like lead time driven. You need to be able to do that in 4, 5, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And if you're lucky to have a world champion in the weekend, you have to be ready on Wednesday to supply him with a skin suit and a shirt and the stuff that he needs to show his colors. So that's the flexibility that we need in the production capacity to scale it. And of course, the higher your growth is in the peak season of the cycling season, the bigger your downturn is in the rest of the year, when you still have the people that you employed and they're sitting on the bench, not having enough money and not having enough work. So that's what we try to level out with a good collection approach.
So yeah, you were saying, just to kind of give people a better idea, your current business, and this has been developing over the last, more or less over the last 10 years, where you focused mainly on we'll call it personalized or custom clothing, which means supplying teams, supplying clubs, supplying also bike shops that want their own collection, their own kits.
Shop design,
Shop design. So these are small lots which require personalized service, design, approval. And you had mentioned that this is what you guys had focused a lot of your energy and attention on getting really good at over the last 10 years. And this paid off.
Yeah, because you get to a certain install base of customers, you get to a certain install base of designs. Once the design is fixed, a customer is able to reorder quite easily. So there is no sales involvement, there is no design involvement anymore, and something that has been fixed as a design. So that gives you like a very recurrent business model in terms of sales. And of course, it doesn't really accelerate in terms of, we cannot double in terms of sales volume.
Yep.
And in collection,
that's a choice.
If you plan well enough and you say, okay, we go to subcontractors or suppliers and we book capacity, and we if we did last year 20,000 pieces and we now do 40,000, and we bring enough money to the table to acquire the customers online, then it's a done deal. And also, if you have your dealer network, your agents in place that are doing a good job in pre-sales, as a collection player, you can cover already like 40, 60, 70% of your sales targets by just doing a good pre-sales for summer and winter. And that's something that we don't have. We always start from zero. But of course, we know if we supply well, we have good service to the teams, then we still have like the installed base of teams and designs that
Sure,
that
that
you
are,
know that statistically know there is a reorder percentage every year.
yeah, and this is really interesting, and this is where when we were talking earlier, how you have this, you guys focused on, and you became very, very good at supplying these custom customers. And from that, then you said to yourselves, okay, now we would like to produce this collection. When we say collection, we mean a certain amount of designs that are in the warehouse that are available to everybody.
Yeah.
Whereas custom, those are specific designs for a specific group of people.
Yeah, and made to order, so we don't stock them in the warehouse. So
But the collection piece, maybe people don't know this or not, but that's a very hard business. That's a very competitive business.
yeah,
And you said that starting out, as you guys are now focusing on, because you said that your business is around 90% custom and 10% collection, but that you would like to begin, or not begin, but you would like to improve that part of the business now that the custom business is, we'll call it, mature. And to do that, you said you're using the context that you have within the teams to provide them with opportunities to learn and then eventually purchase these products. So that's one way that you started,
yeah.
which
And
is
what you see happening also is that, and we make the mistakes often in Belgium and Holland, is talking about teamwear. And typically a team that has a budget, they get money from the
sponsors.
spaghetti nights, from sponsors, from the event what they organize, and within the money that they have, they try to optimize the product range what they source with suppliers. And so what we see often is that we have been put in competition with X amount of competitors that try to win the business by giving things for free, by going down on pricing whatsoever. Okay, you have to compete. You have to try to sell the quality levels. You have to sell the service. And once that the customers are installed and you do a good service, you have a continuous business, and the chance that they are going to move to another supplier is fairly low.
It's
If you
trust,
can you trust, you can benefit from
built
the
the
trust.
trust.
Yeah, yeah. In collection, it's completely different because you have, of course, like an overflow of propositions. You have brands spending a huge amount of the customer acquisition cost is quite high for a shopping cart that is X amount higher than the customer acquisition cost. I hope that year 2 and year 3 there is retention and the customers come back. We don't live out of that. We know that we have an install base. We have the team members that are available that we can retarget quite easily without having to spend huge amount of money online. But what is most important is that we see the business moving away from teamwear. And so the popularity of the big teams that are obliged to wear badly designed clothing sometimes, because they have a portfolio of 20 sponsors, they need to be visible on the shirts. And yeah, I don't want to go out and do my ride and that kind of, but they have to, because on Sunday they ride with the team, so they're obliged to arrive at the team ride with the clothing. But the rest of the week they take something what they like and the colors they like. We see something moving in between, and that's the custom part, where people understand that when we have to do something which is specifically made for their colors, for their application at very low MOQs, that the price point at what they are willing to buy it is significantly higher than the price point in the organized teams that are trying to optimize the budget what they got from the sponsors. And of course, then you create like a very big crossover to collection articles that are inclusive. So in terms of pricing, affordable, with a good quality and with a performance that is comparable with what they get in the team, and they can add products to their closet, which also come from Bioracer. So we see there the biggest potential. Once again, it's not something that we have the ambition to double, but with we see now, even in a market with a downturn, that we have like a 40% growth in collection, which is without spending huge. If I would tell you the amount that we spend online advertising, then you would say that's impossible. And it's true. It's nearly it's closer to zero than to 1 million, let's say.
That's great. And it's coming from the outside looking in. You look at these brands, you look at You look at Castelli, you look at Assos, and you think, oh, they're all the same, but they're not. They're not at
No.
all. Where Assos is, much more collection driven, Castelli as well. And it's two businesses. It's two very different businesses. And I think it's just really interesting to hear you talk about how, yes, we did get very good at that. We optimized our processes. We put in the processes. We put in the systems, the ordering systems, the different types of the personnel that you need. And then now you're saying, okay, now we've got that. That's generating cash. It's generating profit. We know that we're doing a good job, and we know that we have a customer base that is familiar with our products. So now let's just give them more opportunities and easily get our products from the collection line.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like that necessarily has to be a priority. It can be something that is incrementally, again, back to your what you discussed earlier, your sort of incremental growth phase where you'd like to incrementally make this better and better and better. Who is spearheading this project? Do you have like one person on the team that's doing that, or who's going to be responsible for this collection? We'll call it go to market.
Well, we have two. One is more, and it's actually the grandson of the founder, who's technically and organizational wise a great guy. It's Leonard, and he's doing like the back office organization, making sure that we have stocks, that we have the price list, that in an omni-channel approach, that our sales reps can go to shops and visit shops and try to fit without a very big push towards pre-orders, but that we have stocks available, that we have a replenishment that is organized quite well. And then we have one person that is more the commercial side. She's more the stylish. She's actually my fashion police when I go out on the ride, and then she says that's acceptable and that's not acceptable, and she's like the energy in the whole context, and that is of course fueled with Stefan, our business development manager, who comes from has a great background in fashion online. Okay, he was also the one that said, okay, we need to spend more in online advertising, but now with what we see happening, we see that it's very sound and safe to take a lower ambition in terms of growth rate, but still with a clear plan to move from 15 to 30% collection over total.
And you said that you said that there's a person on your team that's going to be really focused on the branding side of it, because the collection, there is a very fashion or a visual element to it. So like there has to be a visual sensibility for the collection, whereas the team much less. So that's another kind of those are new muscles that your team is going to have to learn to build. Do you think that this is going to happen? So coming back to the discussion around go to market, are you focused mainly in Northern Europe? Is that where your business is mainly focused for custom? And I guess the second question is going to be for collection. How do you see that developing geographically?
Well, what we see now is that so custom is Belgium, Holland, Germany, France, Spain, and then you have LATAM, Colombia, and then you have certain agents, distributors like Korea is doing a great job, Japan, and that's the core cycling countries. That's where we focus on in terms of custom. There we are putting feet on the street, and there we try to have enough people, rep knows regional rep principle to meet the teams, to make sure that we have like intake of orders and opportunities. We have we do 15,000 designs in custom every year, so we have like a lot of design capacity available that we also use to make them convert also to collection designs. And what we see now in the 40% growth that we see in collection, it's actually done in the main countries. It's in Belgium, Holland, Germany, because we retarget the team members with collection. So that's where the first focus goes to. And we try to, if we say we're looking now, for instance, in Denmark for a good agent distributor, what we can do is that for a certain country that we are going to invest more in online advertising in terms of collection, just to get the message of Bioracer across, because that also leads to intake of custom potential customers. So we see like a very targeted online spend approach, and we have budgets to spend some more to see what the effects will be. But the collection is mainly one-on-one comparable with the growth in custom business.
Great. And so, yeah, so you are sort of using this strategy, you are sort of not confined, but you do have to sort of lean on the areas that you already have growth. I guess now kind of turning to the branding aspect. I know that you had mentioned that in addition to, being good at custom and being good at processing custom and making clothing in smaller runs, the kind of overarching message and kind of core values that Bioracers always had around optimization of the cyclist to make cyclists faster. This is something that you had mentioned to me that you kind of had to formalize that you guys all had to kind of step back and say, hang on, hold a second. We all need to get on the same page here, and we all need to be communicating the same sort of messaging here. Can you tell me about how that came about?
Well, when I stepped in, I think the tagline was superior cycling wear, superior triathlon wear, superior skating wear, all from custom. And that felt like, and then Rafa was upcoming, and you saw the product differences between what they brought and what we had available in custom. So there was like a certain discrepancy between what the custom players were offering to the market and what the collection players were developing and bringing to the market, which actually did a great thing, because the fact that Rafa started to do and to overdo some of the products, developed an industry that was creating the stuff that we also could apply to custom. So you saw like a very big step in terms of product improvements in the custom. But what actually made us like rethink the strategy in terms of communication was, of course, you had the performance part, the Vitruvian man, the man as the measure of all things. Bio stands for biomechanical. But it was a little bit like awkward to talk about superior cycling, where if you looked at the products, what Rafa and so on were bringing at the same moment. So and it was actually Tony Martin that triggered the discussion about what we were at that point. Tony Martin, I don't know if I told you the story, but he became world champion in Copenhagen. And I remember well, I was lying in my bed in Romania in the factory. We were starting up the factory. And we were very happy seeing the results up till the moment that I got like the first picture in my email saying, yeah, this suit, what Tony is wearing in Copenhagen doesn't look like a Bioracer suit. Actually, that was like a very confronting, knowing that he that he together with his entourage moved to Total Sim, that developed for him the fastest skin suit. They were the first one to do the wind tunnel testing on cyclists and so on. So that was like hugely in your face, and we were very angry to the federation. But at that point, we were also put with our feet on the ground and saying, okay, there's something wrong and we need to step up. And by having a good discussion with the Germans, they offered to bring the German Institute of Sport, FES, into the equation to help us like develop and move really into the speedwear, into the aerodynamics of first the skin suits, but after that everything became aero. The normal shirts, the road race suits, all those kind of things were triggered by the fact that we were obliged to go to the wind tunnel, that we had the test results, and that we really could see the benefit of having an aerodynamic suit. And of course, based on that discussion, saying, okay, can we use this message as another tagline that fits better the biomechanics, the man is the measure of all things, the thing that Raymond founded the company for 40 years ago. And then the tagline was created: we make you faster, hashtag we make you faster. Fast is not fast enough, that kind of communication. And it turned into, like, last Olympics, we switched it to the most tested, because the funny thing is that being supplier to a number of federations, we are always challenged. And I understand by the teams that say, okay, but my rider is going to the Olympics, and he's not wearing the suit that was developed specifically within the team, and now he has to move to Bioracer. Is it fast enough? And we see that with ice skating, we see that with cycling, and we love the idea that we go to the wind tunnel again, and we went actually to Silverstone to have like a comparison between everything available, and it turned out to be again faster than what they had at that moment currently in their portfolio, and then we changed the tagline to the most tested.
So it was something that was always in your DNA. You just weren't, you guys weren't telling the story
We
properly,
weren't telling,
perhaps. Yeah.
and of course, coming from a conservative part being custom or teamwear, but being fast on the bike, if we go back 2011, 12, 13, yeah, was not really necessary for the guys riding on a social ride on Sunday morning. And then we made a joke, yeah, but they also want to be fast back in the cafe to drink a beer or to drink a coffee. No. But you can also commercially make a good presentation around the fact that a person says, yeah, but for me, the aerodynamic skin suit is not really relevant. What we see now is, of course, that you have like a how do you call it, a subculture in cycling that is really like master time trial competitions. You have the guys that go on gravel, and gravel there is also aerodynamics involved. We have since 3 years the velodrome here close by the factory, and I'm always surprised to see the number of people investing a lot of money in the track bike. How do you call it? Fully covered wheels, aero bike, and training every day and with a skin suit on the velodrome. So there is a certain amount of cyclists that are really interested in the aero part, and that's something that we underestimated when we made the switch to we make you faster, but it really makes us like step up every year in development and in what we do for the federations and the pro teams that we partner up with, to make sure that we stay in the upfront for the aero development.
Yeah, it sounds so. Is this a typically Belgian thing to be? Because what I'm hearing here is, you guys have a solid, healthy business that is, you're not making big leaps, like we said, in terms of strategy. You're making very conscientious moves. Is this something that's typically Belgian, or is this something that's maybe just
typically Flemish?
Flemish?
If you look at Belgium, the Flemish are really like humble in a way.
Okay.
We should shout a lot harder than the rest that we have the fastest suit. But we say, okay, we know that we have the fastest suit, and there's multiple other brands that come up with one suit saying we went to the wind tunnel and this was actually 10, 15, 20 watts faster than the Bioracer suit or another suit. And then I always question, okay, but who's the rider? What is he going to do? When is the race? What is the wind direction? There are so many different parameters that need to be taken into consideration to determine is the suit fast or not fast.
But it's, yeah, I mean, and I think the core of the essence of the business is very Belgian, with the colors and I guess just to kind of close, I know you've got, I want to be respectful of your time, but this has been really interesting to kind of see from your eyes, from the person you've been kind of the architect of this all, to kind of walk us through this. And I guess to see, how you've built this identity and how you kind of have a vision for the next few years. It's really refreshing and it's fun. I'm really happy that you're able to kind of give us an insight into all that, because cycling clothing is an incredibly hard business, and to be different and to be unique is incredibly hard.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you guys have sort of found your own space to where you can, do something well, and people will reward you for that.
For our biggest marketing spend is in the people that we have, the people that not only work in the factory, but also the guys that are the sales rep with the feet on the street, that bring the message, that keep talking about Bioracer, and the fact that they are like the gatekeepers in terms of where we sponsor little amounts for teams that want to take next steps in the developments, that work with young people. We were yesterday at Bala BC, which is a local team that have like the world champion cyclocross, who's a Dutch guy at the juniors, but racing in a Belgian team, which is quite specific. And if you see the amount of volunteers that they have to employ to make the business running, we are more than happy to invest money, time, effort in supporting those teams and taking the next step. Because for us, it's not only the riders, the 28 riders in the team or the 80 riders in the team. It's the father and the brother and the guys that moved out. They move from race maybe to a weekend warrior, and then they are the ideal customer because they have a good
Sure,
feeling
yeah.
about
It's you've got
Bioracer.
an evangelist right there.
So that's the biotope that we want to invest in, and that's our biggest marketing spend, and we love to do that.
That's very organic, very grassroots, you call it. I have to say that, like I said, I've worked with a couple of brands in cycling clothing for years and years and years, and Bioracer it's always been kind of Northern European. Obviously you see it at the world stage and in the world championships, but I had never really been able to kind of up close get to talk to anyone from your company. And so at Villa Philly this year, I came and I sat down and I spoke with, I think, one of your sales managers' wives who was working with she was working in the bar, and her daughter was there, and I was eating Belgian cookies, of course, and drinking coffee.
And drink Quaremont, no? You were drinking Quaremont, no?
No, I don't drink, but yeah, I'm drinking coffee. And so I started talking, and we were kind of discussing, and then they introduced me to your, I think, head of sales, and then they put me in touch with you. So that was an interesting kind of serendipity there, to be able to kind of, that you guys were open enough to reach out, because you reached out to me, and then after I got the contact. So I appreciate the time. I'm glad we got to kind of pull the curtain aside and show everybody who Bioracer is. So this has been super fun.
And that's also my passion is the fact that I'm there already since almost 18 years.
You can tell.
Being able to grow up together with the company and being able to connect a lot of international people to the brand, but also bring the message of Bioracer to our people in Romania, Macedonia, Colombia, Colombia is easy, because people, they are fully committed to cycling. Even the girls that are doing the stitching are like into cycling. They sometimes ride with the bike. In Romania, Macedonia is a lot more difficult, but making sure that they get also a passionate feeling about the product that they make, it's great. If we can tell them you made the suit of the world champion or the Olympic champion, or that's something that the message has to be brought, and it's super important for those people also, because they don't have the most well-paid job, and they have a difficult job, and there's a lot of pressure sometimes on output and quality and etc. But at the end, you want people to work within the inclusiveness goal of Bioracer within a company that they know what they are making, and that's super cool to be able to establish that over the last 17-18 years.
Well, thanks again for coming on. If people want to reach you, where's a good place that they can find you?
I think LinkedIn is the most important. I'm very expert in selecting the more like sales related things.
Inquiries.
People that want to sell something, or people that just have a nice question that I can forward to one of my salespeople or whatever, or have this kind of conversation. So that's I've become expert in that. So LinkedIn is the best way to contact me or find me.
Okay, well, thanks, Danny. This was great talking.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.